Welcome back to WZ Sports Day. It is time once again for everybody's favorite WZ sporting event. It is the 9th iteration of WZ Sports Day, and this one comes as a bit of a surprise. I think that following Philly 2025, it was unsure whether we were going to have a sports day this winter, as we didn't have one in the last winter. However, we were able to make it happen. And this one is going to be coming at you from Austin, Texas. It's the second sports day we've had in Austin. The last one was 3 years ago in January 2023. Crazy it's already been that long, but we are coming back to Austin, Texas to have another WZ Sports Day. For this winter sports day iteration, we will be having 3 teams of 4 players each. That's 12 players total. So a similar format to what we saw in, let's say, Utah 2024. There's going to be 4 sports. We're going to get into all of that, as well as some deeper dives into how the teams shook out in the player profiles following this quick event overview just to get you back up to speed.
Alright, so I'm not going to waste too much of your time here. There's nothing too groundbreaking. This is a format we've seen a lot, especially in the winter sports days. There are going to be 3 teams in this event, 4 players each, and the usual 4 sports are making their appearance. That includes speed soccer, the miniature 3v3 in this case version of soccer, along with wiffle ball, volleyball, and basketball. There's going to be 3 games of each because it is round robin. And at the end of it all, each team will have played 8 games, and the team with the best record will win WZ Sports Day, and there will be tiebreakers if necessary. And now for a quick look at the player pool before we get into the team profiles. Spec King and Wally were the captains this time around. A really strong set of captains there, and they had this choice of 9 players in the player pool. Missing some pretty notable top talent in this Lou, like Eirik, Brawley, and Aiden, for instance, but still a really nice group of players, including a couple newcomers to the event. It's the second event in a row where we've had 2 newcomers. That's Snap and Manit in this case, and also Bobby making his return. It's his first time playing Sports Day in 4 years. But we'll get into all that and more, including what you can expect to see on these teams throughout the event in the team profiles section that's making return from the Philly 2025 Meet the Teams video. We'll be going through each team in detail, and stay tuned after that for exclusive captain interviews. So taking another crack at the team scouting reports template that I used for the last sports day in Philly 2025, as you can see, we've got the entirety of our first team here, the Fish team. First team in sports day to not really use a color as their name, seeing as their jersey has a big fish on it. Other than that, kind of like a darkish purple hue, but enough about that, more about the team itself. Let's start off with our captain here, Spec. It's his second time being a captain. This is his 4th sports day, and he's coming off of a win with the purple team in Philly 2025, his first sports day win in his career, and it was a pretty dominant one from the team as a whole, and he had a great event himself. That being said, his standout stats, I think, mostly come in basketball. You know, he's a pretty effective scorer, top 5 in WZ, as well as getting a lot of assists per game as well. His other very notable strength, I think, is his volleyball backline play. He's a great receiver. That 84% receives, also top 5 in WZ. See, looking at the uptrending stats, that receiving percent also was up from his last appearance in Raleigh 2023. Not that he was bad in Raleigh 2023 by any means, but he went from good to elite in that category. As well as the basketball scoring, part of that could be, you know, team related. He definitely had a much better basketball team around him in Philly 25 than he did in Raleigh, but he was able to uptick that scoring a good amount. Now, on the other hand, the downtrending numbers to look at for him, I think, are goals scored in soccer, which this is going to be his first time playing 3v3 speed soccer, so that could definitely come into play here. but he only scored 1 goal. The other thing I think to look at is the home runs in wiffle ball. Now, this team, right off the bat, I'll say, is not projected to do super well in wiffle ball, so this could matter a good bit. He had 4 home runs in 1 event in Philly 2022. However, in the 2 events he's played since, he has 0. And he definitely will need to put a couple balls over the fence, I feel, for this team to have a fighting chance in wiffle ball. Moving on to Haller now. He was the first pick overall in the draft. I believe this is the first time he's ever been the first overall pick. You know, that's partially due to circumstance, based on like who's here and who's the captains. But nonetheless, I think Haller's the pretty clear first pick in the pool of players here. So it makes sense that Spec not only opted for first pick with his first priority, but also went with Haller. Haller's a big Sports Day veteran. He's played 8, one of only 3 players in the league who have played every Sports Day. And he's got 2.5 championships, so that half a championship being the 3-way tie for first in Philly 2022. Everyone who was involved in that, you'll see that 0.5 in their total. And he unfortunately is a couple years removed from his last one, which was in LA 2024, but that being said, he's a strong competitor, mostly standing out in soccer, I would say, that 33 goals being second just behind Eirik, combined soccer and speed soccer. This event will obviously be the 3v3 soccer, and I think in this lineup he'll have a good chance to shine. 110 rebounds for Haller as well, has a really impressive mark. And then finally, 46% service ace percent is very high. That's second all-time in WZ. The notable uptrending numbers from Philly 2025 were definitely wiffle ball related. He was coming off a pretty rough showing in Utah at the plate, but coming into Philly 25, he was actually the 3rd best hitter in the league by OPS+. As you can see, 118. He was 18% above league average. And also batted 500, which is a really nice batting average as well. On the other hand, the downtrending things to look out for, I think, just an interesting one I found is rebounds went down from 19 to 10. And the reason I find that particularly interesting is that in Utah, he only played 2 games, but in Philly 2025, he played 3 and had 9 less rebounds, which I think is a bit of a concern. We'll have to see if he can get back to getting more of those boards in this upcoming event. Other than that, I think volleyball receiving was a very noticeable dip for Haller in Philly 2025. He had 89%, that's a combined ratio of 2 events even, from LA to Utah 2024, and this one he notched a very much lower 61%. So something was off in that case, and he'll have to clean that up for this team to have a fighting chance in volleyball. Next we've got Anks. He was picked with pick 6 at the wraparound, so fairly low, but above a couple members still, so some decent expectations on his shoulders. He's played 7 sports days, and he's won just 1. That 1 win was in the last Austin sports day, 3 years ago at this point, but maybe he can rekindle some of that Austin magic now that he's back playing in his hometown. His standout stats, I would say, the on-base is actually starting to steadily go down in the last couple events, but the career line is still at nearly 600, which is good for 4th. He's getting on base nearly 60% of the time, which is very effective. 70% save percent in soccer, I think, will be particularly relevant on this team where he is slated to be the goalie. And 0.5 blocks per game may sound like a low mark, but that's actually 2nd best in WZ all time, which definitely makes sense given his height, that he's denying some shots going up in the air, more so than most people in WZ. The uptrending numbers, I think I did mention that on base going down the last couple events. However, from Utah 2024 to Philly 2025, he did up that on-base percentage pretty significantly from 375 to 533, so it's at least a step in the right direction in that regard. The service ace percent in volleyball obviously also ticked up a lot. As you can see, 10%. Utah, nothing to scoff or nothing to talk about there, but the 46% in Philly 2025 is very significant. Almost half of his serves were landing for aces. Now, some of that is happenstance, of course, but it does speak to that he was placing those serves well and getting them in bounds. On the downtrending side, I did talk about wiffle ball, the on-base trending down, and a big part of that is his batting average trending down very significantly. As you can see, Philly 22 to Austin 2023, he batted over 700 over those two events, which is, I mean, absolutely ludicrous. Easily the highest mark over those two events. But the two events he's played since in wiffle ball, he's batted just 250, which is actually near the bottom of the list. So that's, again, like I said, for Spec, that's an area that will definitely need to improve, progress back to his career lines, or this team will be in trouble in wiffle ball for sure. And then other than that, the kill percent in volleyball went down a good bit. He was practically on the same volleyball team in both these events, but Utah 2024 57% looks a lot nicer than that 2025 33%, especially when you consider that, you know, he is a frontline player, so the kill percent numbers are more significant for frontline players. And finally, rounding out the Fish team, we've got Smash taken with pick 7 in conjunction with Anks at the wraparound picks. This will be just his second sports day. He's coming off Philly 2025, where he unfortunately suffered an event-ending injury in the last sport of volleyball, pretty early on into volleyball too. And seeing as it's only been about 5 months since that injury occurred, it's actually pretty surprising that he canned up and will be making his second appearance here so soon. With that being said, there are injury concerns, but his standout sport is definitely basketball. He showed some pretty solid ability there, scoring 2.67 points per game, which is solid, and 2 steals per game is the much more notable stat, I would say. He was getting a lot of steals off in those games. That has him good for second all time. And in the very small amount of volleyball we saw, he did have a 50% kill percentage, so, you know, he showed good stuff in what little we saw. And so for Smash, obviously there's no uptrending, downtrending, because he's only played one event. So for him, I did a positive and negatives. For the positives, I have him both as basketball. Both those things I just mentioned, you know, scoring a good amount of points. League average points scored is 2.60, so he's above average in points scoring so far. And he's well above average in steals per game so far. He's got 2, like I said, and the league average is 0.8. So that's a very significant increase in that case. The negatives, however, a big noticeable one was wiffle ball. He was near the bottom of the league in terms of hitting stats. That on-base percentage being just 286, where the career league average is 526. And that is hopefully going to take a step forward this event. He did have some unlucky outs where he put a good hit on the ball, but just went to a fielder type of thing. And also in basketball, the rebounds were pretty low. He only had 3 rebounds per game. League average is 4. That is another area that he'll need to look for more boards, and it's hard to say how realistic that'll be with his injury. You know, it's not sure how mobile and agile he'll be. But as far as Fish team as a whole goes now, looking to the team's overall outlook, I think that this team has a pretty clear best sport, which is soccer. I think they are definitely the favorite in soccer. I would honestly be pretty surprised to see them not 2-0 that sport. Apart from that, it gets a little more questionable. I think that they have a really strong basketball core with Spec, Haller, Smash as the main lineup. It's hard to say if that team that will be enough to take down Wally, but they are definitely set up well in basketball and could reasonably 2-0 there as well. Now the two sports I see as more of a concern, first off is volleyball, not really because this team is a bad volleyball team by any means, but more so just because the overall field in volleyball is so good that I could see this team maybe having some issues. I presume they'll probably play Spec Howler backline, Aang Smash frontline, which is a good formation, but they'll need to step up their game for sure to get to compete with the other two teams in volleyball, I think. And obviously the sport that's the major concern is going to be wiffle ball. They're the only team that doesn't really have anyone who's a pitcher in WZ. It's going to probably come down to Anks and Howler on the mound, and Howler has had good results pitching before, but it's been, like 2.5 years since he last pitched in WZ Sports Day, and it was a pretty small sample. Anks, on the other hand, it's been almost 4 years since he last pitched in WZ Sports Day, and he already was struggling at that point, so it's the pitching outlook is bleak. Where this team does have some solid hope in wiffle ball is their hitting lineup. I do think they have a solid hitting lineup that can, get on base a good bit, if nothing else. It'll just be about driving those runs in with timely hits, maybe a long ball here or there. But overall, I think this team has a decent chance to win the event. In my mind, I think they are the, on paper, second best team. So that brings us to Yellow Team, the second team we're going to be talking about here, captained by King. This is an interesting team for sure. There's a lot of unknowns on this team, and that's what makes this team so difficult to talk about, so difficult to project, but I'll do my best regardless. This is King's second event in a row captaining, and he's coming off of a good one, winning with the purple team in dominant fashion in Philly 2025. He'll have to try that again, and he's got a harder task this time. It's his first time without Brawley on his team in several events, and he was put in a fairly unfavorable spot in the draft order, I would say. More or less having to choose whether he wants to take a gamble or, settle for a team that wouldn't have had great hopes going in, I think. And he went for the gamble, and as we're going to talk about in a second. But first, let's talk about King himself. He is one of 3 players who's played in every sports day up to date, and he's got 3.5 championships, the 3 of them coming in his last 3 events, so he's on a 3-event streak here that could be in jeopardy this event. He'll be looking to make it 4. His standout sports, honestly, pretty much everything but soccer, I would say. Like wiffle ball, that 1.4 OPS is 3rd all time, which just makes him, by statistically, the 3rd most productive hitter in WZ. 38% field goal percent is tied for 2nd all time. He's been upping that number a lot the last few events as he's gotten really productive at scoring. And the 55% kill percent is 1st, and what's really impressive about this is that this number, after his first 2 or 3 volleyball events, was pretty low. And the last few events, he just exploded up that list and is now in 1st in that category. And I think it's very reasonable. I think he's shown himself to be the best frontline attacker in WZ. With that said, uptrending, part of that is that kill percent. Even in the recent events where he's been buffing that number up, he did it even more so in Philly 2025 with a 78% kill percent. That's absolutely insane. I believe that's the highest mark of that stat we've ever seen in volleyball. So that's very impressive. And I think what's also really notable is the ERA plus, which is run prevention as a pitcher. was much better in Philly 2025 as opposed to his previous pitching appearance in Utah, where he was well below average on the mound. In Philly 2025, he was very productive as a pitcher. Unfortunately, on the other side of that, in the downtrending section, the hitting did tick down a bit. We've seen him be really great as a hitter in recent years, but in Philly 2025, he was just around league average, a little above league average, which, to be fair, is not bad. It's just, down from his prowess we saw the previous event in Utah, and also, events prior to that as well. And I think on this team, he is going to be expected to be the big breadwinner in the lineup for wiffle hitting, so that will be a big area he's looking to bounce back. Other than that, I think save percent in soccer, as this mark here where he went down from 56% in LA and Utah to 53% in Philly, doesn't look bad, but I think what makes it more concerning to me is that in Philly 2025, the league average save percent was around 75%, like around mid-70s, and he was all the way down at 53%, so he definitely struggled the most out of all the goalies in Philly 2025. And seeing as that is the role he will most likely play on this team, that's going to be an area he's going to have to bounce back as well. Now, the first pick of King's team, pick 2 overall, was Snap, a newcomer to WZ Sports Day. So this is his big gamble, and we'll just have to see if it pays off. So with Snap, he provided us, his scouting report, and he does have a lot of experience playing sports in his life. I think, for me, the concern is that a lot of it didn't really seem to be recent experience, so we'll have to see if there's like some rust to shake off, or he's not, as sharp in those sports as he'd like to be. What I will say is that basketball and volleyball are his expected best sports. He played basketball up until college. He played volleyball through college. Pretty notable, I would say, and expected to contribute significantly in those sports. The expected weakness, as is usually the case for new sports day debuts, is going to be wiffle ball. He doesn't have experience with baseball, and wiffle ball is just honestly pretty uninviting to new players generally. We'll have to see how quickly he adjusts and adapts on the day. And then soccer I have as a relative unknown. He did express that he played soccer up until high school. I guess for me, I just question if, with how long ago that was, and obviously the level can vary a lot when we're talking about playing soccer in like elementary school, middle school, etc. I would put that more as an unknown for me rather than an expected strength. I feel a lot more confident that he'll contribute in basketball and volleyball. Soccer, I think, kind of yet to be seen. But ultimately what we have here with Snap is a really high upside pick, and King kind of gambling that he needs to take a risk like that in order to have a chance to win this event. His next pick at pick 5, so after the first wraparound, is Doobie, and I think Doobie's coming in here a little lower than would have been expected. I think the expectation would have been that Doobie gets picked on the first wraparound, so onto the next team. But he did get skipped and ended up on King's team here at pick 5, so we will have to see how that plays out for King and this yellow team. I mean, they've got experience being on a team before in Utah on Neon team, and they came away with a win there. Doobie has actually been one of the winningest sports day players. He's got 3.5 championships in 7 events. That's tied for the most championships in WZ with King, Brawley, and Wally. So impressive company there. His standout stats, I would say, he strikes out a lot of batters in wiffle ball. That's 6.24 strikeouts per 3, only behind Wally and Joseph. 26% goal percent, is third all time, which is really solid. Means he's, making the most of his opportunities, more so than most other players. And 156 receives is a really impressive counting stat as well. He's been a career backline player and really solid at holding down the fort back there. Uptrending too, I think relevant for this event is his wiffle hitting was a lot better in Philly 2025 than we had seen in the last couple events before. He was about a league average hitter, which, talking about King, I said like league average hitter kind of as a knock on him, right? But in Doobie's case, I think when he's had so many struggles at the plate in the past, that improving to a league average hitter is pretty bright for his hitting future, right? And I think that potential's always been there. He just hasn't really been able to unlock it, and he's still looking for that first career homer. I think there's a good chance he gets at this event, to be honest. Other than that, the 3-point percentage in basketball, he got his first career 3 in Philly 2025 and ended up with a 25% 3-point percentage, which is actually pretty high, to be honest. That's definitely above average. Granted, like small sample, of course, but his entire career before that, as you can see outlined by Phoenix 2022 through Utah 2024, was 0%. So obviously that's a significant uptrend. Now looking at the downtrending, most notable was definitely wiffle ball pitching. His wiffle ball pitching in Philly 2025 left a lot to be desired. It just didn't work out for him that day. He was not able to find the zone with consistency. He was throwing a lot of balls, walking a lot of batters, wasn't really giving up a lot of hits. Just couldn't find the strike zone and was walking bases loaded, walking in runs, and ended up obviously like very significantly below average with that 18 ERA plus. Means he was 82% worse than league average, as opposed to in Utah he was well above average at run prevention. And I think with this event requiring 2 people to pitch per game, that's important for this team because he's going to have to help King out on the mound. Other than that, I think the service error percent ticking up is not great for this team. His serving is going to be a big part of this team's ability to chain together points. We saw him go on a crazy serving run in Raleigh for Green Team. That's a big part of his game, so he's going to have to look to get more of those serves inbounds in this event. And then finally, Bobby getting picked at pick 8, so second to last overall. And you can understand why. It's been 4 years since he played a sports day. He played the first 2 sports days in Atlanta 2021 and Phoenix 2022. Did not play any of the 6 sports days since until now, so huge comeback here. Pretty crazy to see. And he didn't have the best of results in those 2 sports days, I'll say. So that factors in here, as well as, just really not knowing what you're going to get. I will say, basketball is expected to be his best. 2.50 points per game, that's not bad. 2 steals per game, like I said for Smash, that's pretty good, actually. And then 37% kill percent in volleyball might not seem great, but I mean, that's tied 6th all time, so it's certainly above average. Looking at the uptrending stats for him, he did improve his hitting from Atlanta 2021 to Phoenix 2022, but again, you gotta take this with a grain of salt because we're talking 4 years ago at this point that these events happened, and the climate of like wiffle ball pitching and such has changed a lot. So it's hard to say how much this is gonna factor into this event, his hitting ability. Apart from that, like I said, the steals were great. He had 4 steals in Phoenix, and the Phoenix average was 1.9. So he was, I think he had the most steals in the league, in fact. So maybe that's something he could bring to his game this time around as well. I will say what downtrended in Phoenix 2022, at least, his stats compared to the league average. He was turning the ball over a lot in basketball. He had 7 turnovers. I believe that led the league. 4.2 was the league average. And he had 10 receiving errors in volleyball, where the league average was 5.5. So he was struggling a bit to get those receives up, and I think those are both, areas he's going to have to clean up the play to help contribute to his team here. So now yellow team's outlook on the whole, I think it's fair to say that this is the underdog team this event. I said that last event about the pink team, and they ended up in a three-way tie for second, which is very respectable. Similar type of thing could definitely happen here. Again, this is a team with a lot of unknowns. We just don't know what Snap's going to look like. I think where Snap lands is going to be the main factor in where this team lands. But ultimately, I expect their best sport to probably be volleyball. I think that this is a team with a really solid volleyball core. Between King and Doobie having a lot of proven WZ Sports Day experience, and Snap having the most experience in volleyball out of any of the four sports, I think that will create a solid volleyball team. And Bobby was not too shabby in Phoenix 2022 either, so I think he rounds out the team well. Wiffle ball, also a nice sport for this team, but I just question if they will be able to notch that 2-0. I think they have a tough matchup with the team we'll be talking about next, but this team does have two solid pitchers. We'll have to see where Doobie lands on the mound, but they have two serviceable pitchers at least. The lineup, a little more sketchy, but King at least is a superstar hitter in that lineup. Other than that, I do have my concerns about soccer and basketball. I think with soccer, Doobie has shown himself to be really strong in this 3v3 soccer format before. So if Snap ends up being a solid contributor there as well, and then King or Bobby playing in net, I think this team could mesh well and be okay in soccer. But other than that, basketball, I assume King, Snap, Bobby will be their main lineup, and a lot of that's just going to depend on where Snap and Bobby are at this point. Bobby didn't have the best of performances in Phoenix 2022. King has looked great in basketball, but he needs someone around him who's going to dish him those passes and help support him, right? And maybe that can be Snap. We just don't know how that's going to look just yet. But this is a team I think that could honestly bottom out pretty low, but if Snap and Bobby end up looking really good, this is a team that could win the event for sure and shock everyone. So then the final team to talk about is the third team, the Aurora team. Another case kind of like the Fish, where their team name isn't really a color, more so just a reference to the pattern of colors on their shirts. They've got a tie-dye kind of jersey going on. The Aurora team is captained by Wally. Obviously, Wally is the Sports Day GOAT, so a big name in this list of participants, and it's his first time captaining in almost 3 years. Raleigh 2023 was the last time he was a captain, the only time he was a captain, in fact. And it went pretty well for him there. His team won the event. It's actually the last time his team has won the event, so he's looking for this experience to get him back up to speed. I mean, he's still tied for that most championships in WZ with 3.5, despite the fact the last 3 have not turned out that way for him. And, for obvious reasons, you look at these standout stats, and this really doesn't even scratch the surface. Wiffle hitting, he's been the best hitter statistically with that 1.627 OPS. Basketball, he's been the most effective point scorer, 5.92 points per game. That's also first. And 218 receives in volleyball is easily first. He gets a ton of balls up in the air in volleyball. And again, this doesn't even take into account his wiffle pitching, which is arguably the scariest part of his skill set. And that will be represented in this uptrending section where his pitching in Utah 2024 was excellent. He was the best pitcher in the event with the 197 ERA+, and despite that, he got even better in Philly 2025 with a 3.13 ERA+. So obviously, preventing runs really effectively, and that wiffle hitting that I mentioned before as well also uptrended. He had a 625 on base percentage in Utah, which again is very good. Was probably near the top of the league, if not first. And in Philly 2025, he had a 765 on base percentage, so he was getting on base nearly 80% of the time, which is ludicrously high, needless to say. So, yeah, wiffle, I think is his best sport at this point, and he's been showing improvements in it even so. Basketball, which used to pretty definitively be his best sport before his wiffle uptick, actually downtrended in Philly 2025. He had his worst basketball event in quite some time, just didn't really get it going. Scored just 3 points per game as opposed to that first sample includes 4 events. Austin 23, Raleigh 23, LA 24, and Utah 24. Between 4 events, he averaged 8.78 points per game, which to begin with is absolutely ludicrous, but obviously that makes this drop off that much more significant. And you can see the main reason why in the 3-point percentage department. Utah 2024, he averaged a ridiculous 54% from 3. In Philly 2025, it was 0%, I believe, on 10 or 11 attempts, so just couldn't land any of them in, and that hurt his scoring a lot. That is where he will be mostly looking to bounce back and have a revenge tour, because he was obviously not happy with how basketball went in Philly 2025, and he has a lot in the tank to show there still. So with Wally's first pick of the wraparound picks, he went with TK, which is me, by the way. Sorry for the third person, it's just how I've always done this. TK has played 8 sports days. He's one of just 3 players who have played in every sports day, the other 2 being Howler and King, who we talked about previously. He's got 2.5 wins in the bank, and they came quite early on. The first 2 sports days were an outright win for TK, and the third one he was in that 3-way tie. So that means in the 5 sports days since, it's been winless. So he's hoping to get back to that, with a really strong captain on his side and Wally and a good team around him. With that said, I think the skill set is historically been pretty well rounded. 9 home runs in wiffle ball is tied for first all time. He's got a nice power stroke in wiffle ball. He's able to drive balls out of the yard. 30 goals is good for third all time, but I think there is definite concern when it comes to soccer for this event, which I'll talk about more later in the downtrending section. The third standout stat to me is the 6% service error percent. That's tied for first all time. Just not really giving the other team many free points via the serves. Landing everything in bounds and giving his team a shot, I think, is a pretty valuable skill in volleyball. The main uptrending, like Wally, was both seen in wiffle ball. On the hitting side, TK had a major bounce back event from a couple events previously where he was around league average. In Philly 2025, exploded with a 176 OPS plus, which was best in the league. Not only that, but on the pitching side, 396 ERA plus was also the best in the league, compared to his Utah 2024 82, which was below league average. TK was, by matters of run prevention, the best pitcher in Philly 2025, as well as the best hitter in Philly 2025. So it really was just a wiffle ball masterclass. However, the problems came afterwards. First seen in soccer, where the goals went completely away. In Utah 2024, 4 goals were scored. In Philly 2025, that number was 0. Now, granted, TK played a couple halves of goalie, but for the halves that he was on offense, he just wasn't really able to get much going, and a lot of that is due to the ankle injury in Utah 2024. The movement was a lot less agile. Kind of similar concerns to what I have for Smash this event, seeing as how close his injury was. But yeah, I think it's really in question for the future what we're going to see from TK on offense in soccer post-injury, and we kind of saw a bit of that in Philly 2025. Apart from that, the serve error percent, which was 0% from the previous 3 events, Raleigh, LA, and Utah, was 13% in Philly 2025, had a couple service errors. Not noted here at all is basketball, where the injury has pretty much kept TK almost completely off the court the last couple events, and when he was on it, it didn't look good. So, with Wally on his team, you know, who should be like a basketball demon in this lineup, we'll have to see if TK can get some confidence back in that sport. Moving on now to Manit, also picked on the wraparound picks in conjunction with TK at pick 4. The other Sports Day newcomer to this lineup, Snap, we already talked about on yellow team. The other newcomer is Manit. So both the newcomers getting picked pretty high here. And with Manit, I think it mostly comes for one big reason, and it's that he has very high confidence level in volleyball. He, in his scouting report, does not just think he'll be good at volleyball, he thinks he'll be like the best volleyball player in WZ. And, you know, the reason's simple, he plays it a lot, he plays volleyball regularly in more competitive environments than what we've seen in WZ Sports Day as far as level of volleyball play goes. So, you can understand why he feels that way. Other than that, like Snap, I think wiffle ball is expected to be a weakness. Doesn't have baseball experience. That's the main factor, along with, you know, just you've not seen the wiffle balls move before, and it's a tough adjustment to make. We kind of just see that every time a new wiffle ball player comes into the fold. And I have soccer and basketball both as unknowns. He claimed that he thinks he's decent in both, but from the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like he has a lot of experience in either. And if that's the case, it's really hard to say what we're going to see. And I don't really have much more to say about it beyond that. I think that, you know, Manit should be a very scary presence in volleyball, and that's presumably the main reason that Wally picked him here above, you know, someone like Doobie. Everything else, he's got something to prove. I mean, he's got something to prove in volleyball too, of course. We haven't seen him play it in WZ Sports Day yet, but the sports aside from volleyball, I bet he himself really has no idea how that's going to look even. And then finally, the last player to talk about, that's going to be Tuck, taken at pick 9, so the last overall pick. You know, it always feels bad to be like the last overall pick, and it's hard to dance around that in this commentary, but I will say, you know, Tuck could easily outperform this pick. As you can see, like, he's got a winning history. He's played in just 4 sports days, and he's won 2 of them, so he's won half the sports days he's played in. So he contributes to a winning culture. He was on the underdog team last event. Everyone thought they were getting last, and they got tied for second. So, you know, maybe Tuck's contributing something that isn't as easy to see just on the stats page, right? With that being said, talking about the stats page, he's got a 500 career batting average in wiffle, which is tied 3rd all time. That's very good, along with 18 runs batted in, so he's good at getting timely clutch hits to drive the runs in as well. And something we saw for the first time last event was he played some goalie in soccer and actually had a 75% save percentage, which led the league. So that's very impressive, and if that's something he can incorporate into his game this time as well, could be a big contributor to this team's soccer outlook. So that's noted in the uptrending section. His 75% save percentage is obviously, notable compared to the fact he hadn't played goalie at all in the 3 previous sports days he'd played. Along with that, he had more volleyball receives, so he was getting involved more, putting the ball up in the air. Definitely did notice he played a better brand of volleyball in Philly 2025 compared to his previous event in Raleigh 2023. Unfortunately, the downtrending stats are both going to come from wiffle ball, which was kind of his calling card previously. The on-base percentage went down pretty significantly. He had a 636 OBP in Philly 2022, however in Philly 2025 it was just 364. So the big contributor to that was that he wasn't taking walks anymore. He walked 0 times in Philly 2025, and that's going to hurt your on-base numbers most of the time. Along with that, the strikeout percent was up, and that's another part of it. Meaning his strikeout percent when batting, he was striking out over 50% of the time in Philly 2025, as opposed to just 18% of the time in Philly 2022. So when it comes to his hitting in wiffle ball, he's going to have to try to be more patient, see more pitches, take more walks, and be less swing happy, try to chase out of the zone less. But all things considered, I think Tuck is a solid piece to round out this Aurora team. And talking about this Aurora team's outlook, being really genuine, and I'm not trying to ego at all, this is really not about me. I think that Aurora team is the favorite to win the event. And the reason for that is quite simple. This team's got Wally, and in this lineup, I think Wally is far and away the best player in the event. Normally in a summer sports day, you've got like Brawley, Aiden, Irick, like a lot of heavy hitters in the lineup that make it harder for Wally to just kind of take over the event. But in this event, I think there's a decent chance that that happens. Ultimately, I think this team has a really good wiffle ball outlook, probably their best sport, because not only is Wally like a menace on both sides of the ball, but TK is obviously a great hitter as well. Like a top 3 hitter in WZ at worst, as well as having some pretty good pitching results in his career, which will be relevant for the 2-pitcher rule. Along with that, Tuck in the lineup actually kind of helps a lot too. I mean, this team has like the most star power in terms of wiffle ball hitting, and also the most well-rounded overall lineup in terms of wiffle ball hitting, along with potentially having the top 2 pitchers in the event. Again, a lot of that's going to depend on if Doobie's able to return to form, but Wally at the very least is for sure expected to be the best pitcher. Other than that, I think their next best sport is volleyball, where I think you can also pretty reasonably expect this to be the best volleyball team. Now, a lot of that's going to come down to how well Manit's claims hold up, but if he is, not even necessarily like the breakaway best volleyball player in the event, if he's just near the top of the order, this is a really strong volleyball team, because Wally and TK have both historically performed pretty well in volleyball. So I have basketball as this team's 3rd best sport, and considering the team has Wally, who is expected to be by far the best basketball player in the event, that's a really good sign for this team. Now the problem with basketball is I think outside of Wally, this team doesn't have a lot to talk about. So kind of what I said about wiffle, but in reverse, I think this team is the least well-rounded basketball team. The other 2 teams, both, you can dream on a pretty 3-strong basketball lineup, but in terms of Aurora, it's kind of just expected to be the Wally show, and if he's not able to just hard carry, then this team could have some problems. TK has struggled in basketball recently. It's never really been a super strong suit of his, and that especially will be hard post-injury. Manit, we have no idea what we're going to see, but the confidence level did not seem super high, and that's kind of expected to be the main lineup, with Tuck not really liking to get involved in terms of basketball. But with Wally on this team, basketball is certainly, like, at worst, pretty good. And then finally, that leaves soccer. I think that will be this team's main weakness. The reasons for that are pretty simple, just not a whole lot of offense to be had on this team on paper. TK ideally would want to play goalie these days after the hit he took to his ankle. Wally typically is a defense-first player in soccer, and with Manit, we've got no idea what we're going to get, and Tuck also has shown the most success in soccer in goalie. So ultimately, this is going to be a pretty defense-first team, I think, that is going to be trying to win some low-scoring games in soccer. But I think, in my opinion, I would have this team projected as the worst soccer team. So that is the big area of concern for this team on what is otherwise a really strong set of 3 sports. So that's why I have this team as the favorite. Obviously, could very reasonably not win the event. One thing goes wrong, then suddenly the whole outlook changes, right? So yeah, Wally and TK both looking for their first sports day win in quite some time. Manit looking to burst onto the scene. We'll have to see what Aurora team is able to do in this event.
Hello and welcome to the WZ Sports Day Austin 2026 Captain Interviews, kind of the tradition of the last several sports days. We are back once again, this time with this wonderful selection of captains. We got Spec, captain of the Fish team, King, captain of the Yellow team, and Wally, captain of the Aurora team. First time captaining since Raleigh 2023 for both Wally and Spec. King on his second in a row, and he's looking to replicate his success last time as a captain. With that being said, we're going to get right into the interview questions. First one, a pretty standard classic. Which team has the best jersey? We'll do the count of 3, and then everyone can point to their selection of choice. So 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I was expecting everyone to point to their own, as that usually is what happens. However, we got Wally and King going with their own, but Spec of the Fish team going with the Aurora team. Let's start with your thoughts on that.
I mean, I think the Fish team jersey is really nuts. It's not as crazy as I wanted the jersey to be. It's still a good jersey, but it's just not crazy enough for me to think it's cool. In that regard, like, it's still good, but like, I wanted it to be crazier. I like Aurora because I think this is the most interesting color a jersey has had. Like, I don't think a jersey has taken this like sort of angle with the color yet. My only complaint about the jersey was I don't like that the collar is a solid color like that compared to how the sleeve is. I actually really like how the sleeve is, but I think this jersey is like very nice.
Makes sense. King, your yellow team, it's been a divisive one among the clan so far. What are your thoughts?
That's literally going in the worst tier.
There's got to be a new tier below that.
That's crazy. I mean, I like that it takes something simple, like just a yellow color, and adds something to it without going too overboard or crazy. Like, we've seen some in the past that haven't been more like a splotchy kind of route. I like that this isn't just another boring yellow without getting too wacky. I like the little gray bars in here. It's just a nice little extra touch. I think it's nuts.
And Wally, quick thoughts on the Aurora jersey.
It's awesome. This might be the best jersey that's ever happened in WZ Sports Day. And I really do like Fish, but I wish the stuff on the back was wrapped around. Like the whole jersey, I think would just really make it nice. And then Schittsburg is ranked last and it's uncompetitive.
That's fucked up.
The next question, also one that we tend to have. We're going to go with which sport is your team's best sport in your opinion? And we're going to all say it on 3 and then go down the line with some thoughts. So 3, 2, 1, Soccer. Okay. Yeah, about what I expected. Spec, what are your thoughts on your team's soccer?
I mean, Haller's just historically like a good soccer player. I think everybody knows this. And from what I understand, like, I saw some people projecting Haller to be like the best soccer player in this lineup. I mean, obviously there's notably no Eric here. So Haller is expected to be like one of the best players. I've been trying to practice soccer a little bit, make sure I'm not completely useless. And from what I understand, Angst is like, I don't look at the tape, but from what I understand, Angst is like a reliable goalkeeper. So I think even though it's not like I drafted for strength in soccer specifically, it just so happened to work out well for us in that sport.
King, I believe you went with volleyball for your yellow team. What are your volleyball thoughts?
I think we have a good foundation with me and Doobie. It's good to proven options. I think obviously we're not sure quite yet what we're getting with Riku, but I think if he just holds his own, I think we'll at the very least be competitive in both the games.
Wally, you went with wiffle ball.
I did. Having myself and yourself makes for two really proven hitters. Puck has also been a proven hitter, and having three really good hitters and two pitchers in a lineup is just, it's tough to beat. So not knowing what Manit's going to give us, I think regardless, the lineup is really solid just comparing to the rest of the teams. King and Doobie do have two pitchers there, and King is a really good hitter. We don't know what we're going to get out of Riku, and we don't know how Bobby's going to fare, but I think only the consistent players that are seeing these pitching as it's evolving are going to be more reliable in that hitting loop. They could still, obviously win both of their games, but I think it's going to be our best chance at getting a 2-0 in the sport.
Yep, I think that's fair. So then the flip side question, of course, that usually follows that one, which is what do you think your team's worst sport is? We're going to do the same 3, 2, 1 spiel. So 3, 2, 1.
Soccer. Soccer.
Okay, wow, this is an interesting one because we got two soccers. So let's start with those. Wally, we're going to start with you this time.
Well, historically, soccer has been the sport that I'm the far and away the worst at out of the sports that we traditionally play. While you have been a proven good soccer player, your injury does give a little pause because it is on your right foot. We don't know anything about Manit. He's a complete unknown in soccer. And then Tuck was a really solid goalie in Philly, but our offense feels like it's going to be lacking if we can't filter shots through you, unless Manit is nuts, and then we're going to have a chance at stealing a win.
Okay, King, what causes you to say soccer for your team?
Honestly, it's like depending on the time of day, I could say soccer or wiffle. It's yeah, I don't know. Similar as far as Wally's. For me personally, far and away my worst. I'm just in that, which like kind of up and down. Kind of not sure what you're gonna get there. Doobie is solid, but same thing with Riku, just the unknown. Same thing with wiffle ball. I'm not really too sure what we're gonna get just yet. And depending on how me and Doobie do on the mound and behind the plate could really affect if we are great or not in that. So in soccer, I just feel like there's the most kind of unknown, I guess.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. It's definitely a tough call for your team. You have a very balanced team, I would say. And wiffle ball, what's your thoughts?
I mean, this might be, out of all sports days that haven't had an egregious troll draft, this might be the worst a team has been at any sport in sports day history. My team in wiffle. We can't pitch.
Egregious troll draft, what do you have in mind?
Philly Brown. Philly Brown.
Sorry.
But none of us can hit besides maybe Haller. I fell off. Angst fell off. Is that our whole team?
Smash.
Smash didn't start.
You guys actually hit quite well in that mentioned Philly Brown team.
But we fell the fuck off. We're completely useless. Haller can hit. None of us can pitch. I hope to God Smash was dojoing. He broke his leg, but I hope he can go out there and pitch a good performance. We are completely useless.
Alright,
completely
fair
useless.
enough. Definitely reasonable takes there.
Maybe I can hit some home runs like Philly won. Maybe I get lucky.
Yeah, that's
the
loop going on his head.
It's not gonna
I was surprised that you thought maybe wiffle for you guys, because given your hitting history and 5 innings to really scope out pitchers, I figured you'd feel pretty confident in that.
I have a hard time. I mean, it's a tale of two games because against this team, I feel a lot more confident than this team, respectfully.
Makes sense.
Even if we have I feel like for us to have a chance against you guys, like we have to be on par. We have to be up here as far as the pitching goes.
Yeah.
If we're not hitting the zone, or if we're just
low scoring.
if we're giving a whole lot of hits, then, exactly. Then
It's
it's
not
gonna
like
be
getting
tough.
Joe to pitch for us.
No. The next question is also one I believe has occasionally made an appearance, maybe not every time, but who would be your underrated pick of the draft, like most underpicked player, or who do you think will give the most value relative to their pick slot? A couple ways
Do we
to
know the draft? Do we know the draft order? Where was the draft?
Alright, so we'll go down the line this time instead of going 3, 2, 1. So we'll start with Wally.
It's tough. Doobie feels like the obvious answer. Smash could be up there too. I think not knowing Riku and Manit's full skill set in person is risky, and King and I both jumped on that risk, and I think it'll work out well for both of us. But Smash with the injury, like we saw him in soccer and basketball and wiffle ball, and even a little bit of the volley, looked really solid. So I would say in at least 2 or 3 of the sports, he was at worst middle of the pack. And I think that could mean that he could have high value. It just depends on the injury, and I think that's what gave King and I pause on that wraparound pick.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Smash, but like with a little bit
Doobie,
asterisk
yeah.
due to the injury concerns. That makes sense.
Yeah.
King, what's your thoughts?
It was for me. I felt like I had to gamble on Riku or Manit, so I will say Manit on the chance that I lose the 50-50.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, because a lot of variance in where that could land, and
Exactly.
so could definitely reasonably be
I
the right
took the all rounder as opposed to the specialist. So we'll see if I made the wrong choice or the right choice there.
Yeah, it's like I feel like it's hard to say Manit or Riku for this because it's also like they got underpicked, but we're also picking based on our information. We don't have information on them, so I feel like you can't fault the captain for where we think Manit and Riku will lie on this go around. That's why I think Doobie was probably a little bit underpicked. I know you said it's an obvious pick, but that guy's just super solid. He's just super solid, and he's a good pitcher in the lineup that. Like, I feel like the biggest thing in the sports day evolution is that if you don't have a pitcher, like you're just you're farming losses basically. I don't know, and Doobie's like one of the most solid pitchers in WZ. I mean, we saw a little bit of a downswing in the last Philly, but he's obviously a good pitcher. Would have been great on the team.
Yeah, all right, makes sense. Good answers. Next, we're going to do some more individual questions, but it's going to be kind of the same question for all 3, but it is about their individual expectations for themselves. What sport do you expect yourself to perform the best in relative to your standards? So not necessarily what sport are you the best at, but compared to what you normally do in each sport, where do you think you'll have the biggest uptrend, or where do you hope to have the biggest upswing in performance? We'll start with Spec this time.
Easy answer for me. I think it's soccer. I think I'm going to look like an absolute bot in volley because I'm playing against Manit. And then I think I'm going to look like a bot in basketball because I'm getting guarded by a Division I starter. So, and in wiffle I suck. So soccer is the only option. It has to be soccer.
Okay, that's very logical.
It has to be soccer, yeah.
Deduction, I suppose, there. King, what are your thoughts?
I'm gonna go basketball. I feel like wiffle and volley. I feel like if I just live up to my expectations, then we'll be okay. soccer, like I'm pretty much just relying on Doobie and Riku to perform there and just hold my own in the net. I feel like the make or break for me is how much higher than my ceiling can I get in basketball. Obviously tough against Division I starter and tough against Howler spec combo. So I need to play my ass off. But you know, that's the plan. Just play hard, do the best I can, hope for the best.
Hey, we're looking solid in some 3v3 scrimmages that were happening yesterday.
You were looking like Mr. Division 1 yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know which one of you two I was talking about. I don't know which one of you two I was talking about.
Very reasonable answer. And finally, Wally, what's your thoughts on this question?
So I have like two answers. The first one is, if it's overall, where do I think I'm going to see the most uptrend? I would say volleyball. If it was for last event, I would say basketball, because I didn't have a good event. The injury on my foot was affecting me pretty badly, and then getting a chiropractic adjustment by Irick in the first game, and then needed the groin by Doobie, was not a good combination. But on volleyball, I think I haven't had a solid backline player in a long time, and just watching Manit, not only is he a good backline player, he's probably the best receiver in the clan, just off of very limited looks. Especially on some of the hard serves that we saw, he had very good control and placement off where that was coming off of his arms. And that's really promising. That means that I'll have some pretty good opportunities to hit some good shots in the front line, and I won't have to be spread thin on the back line trying to cover a lot of the court. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, makes sense. And then finally, just some general closing thoughts. If you have anything else to add, just we'll go through that. So starting with Wally.
I fucking hate Schittsburg colors. It's just being a Bengals fan, bro. Anything Pittsburgh is just no good.
It's Boston Bruins, my man. That's your glitch.
That's fine. You know, I mean, there's a city thought of for yellow and black.
Yeah, Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah. My other thought is I'm very mad that I gave Bumblebee team strats for basketball when I was trying to help them out and be nice, and then they were like, "Oh, this is going to be good," and I was like, "This is going to be bad for us." So, a little concerned about that.
I'm not seeing jump shots like that.
Well, Kingler, what do you got?
This is an interesting one. Obviously, when you get Brawley 05 on your team 3 meets in a row, you can kind of start to get used to it and maybe get a little comfortable.
Yeah.
So, I feel like there's a lot more on me this time, but I'm excited for that. It'll be sink or swim, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I think you were saying something like this in the last meetups post-event winner interview we did, and for the finale, something along the lines of like, you don't expect to get Brawley the next event, and that would be a big challenge you're looking for.
Definitely a big motivating factor, but it's definitely a little odd seeing it's just the one. I don't think anybody really would have foreseen the sports day lineup we ended up with.
Right.
And the circumstances of my draft, it definitely makes it a very interesting seat to be in, but I'm excited about the team I ended up with. It should be fun.
Alright, Inspect.
I think what I'm most excited for this sports day is like, this is the first time in a while we've had some new members. Well, no, that's not true. I mean, even in last Philly we had 2 new members who you would think will be regulars, but I'm just excited to see how many and Phoenix Riku will perform in this, especially because I expect the 2 of them to be playing in sports days fairly regularly. I expect.
Riku probably a need for sure.
Yeah, Riku at least the most unexpected. So I'm excited to see where they fall.
Yeah, makes sense. Definitely fair. But that's all I got. So that'll do it for the captain interviews for Sports Day Austin 2026. And thank you for taking your time out of your day to answer these questions. And we will be starting the event shortly with soccer. So stay tuned for that. GG's.
So that's going to do it for this introductory video. Here's another look at the teams before I end things off here. I just want to give a big thanks to everyone who stuck around this long and watched. Definitely went a little longer than I would have liked to on the team analyses this time around. So again, if you stuck around to the end, big appreciation to you, and stay tuned for next week where the first sport of WZ Sports Day Austin 2026 will be released. That is going to be speed soccer this time around. So it's going to be a good one, and stay tuned. See you next time.